Good afternoon. Yeah, what time is it? 6:30 on Monday evening as July swoops past us and boy, the weather heats up. Anyway, I'm Dunn's stores. My last bit of fashion from Dunn's bought on, I went through, if you go back a little, you'll see two shirts I bought and this I bought €10. Love the colour. I hope you think the colour suits me. €10. And all my bill was €50. Two shirts, one sports top, polo top, and a leather belt, real leather belt with a nice buckle and not a big belt, just a nice buckle. Anyway, very welcome. So today I want to have a little chat about and I've done this, I think, months ago. I'm just going to refresh it. It's a photograph of myself, Bruce Forsyth, and Kenny Lynch. You remember Kenny Lynch up on the roof? And of course, everyone knows. I would think that the late Bruce, or Sir Bruce Forsyth, was probably the best, how would you call it, host. I don't mean a talk show host, but a host of game shows, host of Strictly Come Dancing, a host, the finest host that England's ever produced. I don't think there's any argument about that, the late Bruce Forsyth. When I moved to Marbella first, many moons ago, I always heard all these stars and I couldn't wait. I'm starstruck to see them all, the Rod Stewarts and all. We moved into an apartment next to Portabanus. And one morning, early in the morning, Wendy was getting the kids up. I don't know, they were very young. One was a baby. And there's a ring at the bell. I rang. We don't know any down here. I answered the door. No, I believe it. It was Bruce Forsyth. Good to see. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Mm-mm-mm. That's a terrible impression, I know. Anyway, so he said, do you mind if you can use your telephone? And I said, no problem at all, because we had a telephone, but he was staying in a friend's flat above us, and he had no apartment, I should say, and he had no phone. And he said he was late for a game of golf or something. I just had my mouth open. Bruce Forsyth. I mean, he's the biggest thing on television with 18 million, 20 million viewers. And here he is sitting in my apartment and only arrived about a week or two before. With that, Wendy comes out with the kids and she has one look at him, thinking to herself, Jesus, he looks an awful lot like Bruce Forsyth. And I introduced her to Bruce. And Wendy said, well, would you like a cup of coffee or something? And Bruce says, well, okay. Okay. So he had a cup of coffee, cup of tea, I can't remember, maybe a drink of water. And it so happens he starts speaking to Wendy because Wendy was dressed to play tennis. And he says, you play tennis? And Wendy said, yes. She said, well, my wife upstairs, Winifred, she was Miss World, if you remember right. She loves tennis, but she has no one to play with. And Wendy said, well, don't worry, bring her down and introduce us and she can come with me to play. And from that on, Wendy went off with Winnie. I'm not sure that day, but they started to play tennis together, etc., etc., etc. And that was it. So I'm not saying we became friends, but I saw Bruce a few times. Hi, Bruce. Hi, Morris. Blah, blah. Everything okay. Sometime later, Bruce, I can't remember how, invited myself and Wendy to join him in Portabanus at Mumtaz Indian restaurant for dinner. I don't know how it came about. Maybe it was a birthday or something. And anyway, it wasn't that much longer. Anyway, we went to meet him, and he had a bandage across this bridge of his nose. And I said, "What happened to you?" And he said, "Well, we moved into the new apartment, townhouse, I think it was, and I walked into the glass door. I'm fine, and I played some pro-am golf today. There was an amateur, professional. It was a celebrity. I can't remember. I'm not a golfer. Anyway, nice top, isn't it? I like the colour. What do you think? The colour does work with me. Anyway, stop being such a big egomaniac. Anyway, that was it. We had a lovely dinner, a lovely evening. And people used to tell me, and there's a motorbike, can you hear that? And people used to tell me, that motorbike's right up on the Ronda Road. Now, normally I can hear no traffic on the Ronda Road. But these stupid... I thought there was a law in Spain years ago to silence these things, and especially these Lamborghinis and all. Boy, you can hear them late at night. Anyway, so that was that with Bruce. Anyway, a friend, someone I knew, I can't remember, I'm not going to mention his name, he's a journalist, said to me, "You were spotted with Bruce Forsyth last night." And I said, "What was I?" How was I? And he said, never mind. He said he had a bandage on his nose. What's wrong with him? And I said, he told me he walked into a glass door, but he did very well in the end at the celebrity golf tournament. That was it. But the next day in the papers, it has Morris Boland or something in the, I think it was the, what was it Today, the Today newspaper. Hutchinson, was that his name? Chris Hutchinson wrote that Morris Boland told us that Bruce had been in an accident at home and walked into a glass door. That, I thought, Jesus, how important, who'd care about that? But anyway, I bumped into Bruce and Bruce was steaming. I said, what's wrong with you? He said, if you think you're going to come out with me in the evening and use me to sell stories for 25 quid to the newspapers, forget it, and I don't want to see you again. Go away. I was devastated when I heard that. I was innocent of the fact of that. Anyway, moving on, I moved into a townhouse, a duplex, well, it doesn't matter, a duplex next to the Bullring in Portabanus. There was a row of apartments and duplexes. And I came down one morning about 8 o'clock to bring the kids to school. It was 8 or half 7. And who's standing on the road but Bruce and a few people? It was quite embarrassing because I haven't seen him since he told me to get lost. And I said, hi, Bruce, what are you doing here? And he looked shocked. And he said, well, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I live up there. I live in the duplex. And he said, oh. I said, what's wrong? He said, I've just bought the one below you. And so I can see onto his garden. And I stopped and I said, come on, Bruce, let's lay this on the table. Honestly, I never sold any stories of you into the newspapers, nor am I have any intention of selling any newspaper stories. In fact, as you know, or you probably know, I'm going around the world at the moment promoting Mandy Smith with records and everything. So I have my mind set on that promotion, not selling little stories about you. So relax, you can live here in peace. And about a week later, it's God's truth, on the Mandy Smith side, I had reporters come up to me, to meet me, to have a discussion about a new tour we were going to do at Mandy. And we're sitting on the terrace having a cup of tea or something, and he looks down in the garden, and who does he see but Bruce, without his, what's the slang, syrup a fig, is it? Without his toupee, whatever. And he had those little black things covering his eyes, so he wouldn't get burnt from the sun. And he was sitting on a deck chair. It was quite a funny sight. He had a pair of Speedos on. Well, this journalist, quick, get the camera. This is worth a fortune, this photograph. And Wendy at the time said, no, you're not getting any photograph. There's no photograph. And I said, yes, Wendy's right, no photograph. We had enough problem. You're not taking photographs. We're not going to discuss it. That's the end of it. But he was highly disappointed, the journalist, and he went home very disappointed. And a couple of days later, I went to get the daily newspaper, which then it was called The Today. Do you remember? Someone, Shah, was it, that owned it? And I went to the gossip, I love the gossip column, Chris Hutchinson, I think was his name. And there it says, the height of bad taste. And it said, Bruce Forsyth's friend, Morris Boland, tried to sell me a story about him being photographed in the garden, not wearing his syrup or his wig, etc., etc. And we journalists refused to print the story. So I took the paper and I went around and I knocked at his door and I said, Bruce, I swear to God, Bruce, this is absolutely my children's life. I stopped the photographers trying to take a photograph of me. And in the end, he said, fair enough, Morris. But seemingly he went out, someone told me he went out that night with Sean Conroy, which was our neighbour a little bit up the road, and they were talking, and he said, oh, Boland's at it again. And so I thought, well, we'd never, ever speak again. But we did. Wendy and myself, one evening, it was dark, it was a winter's evening, we were walking in the port, and who did we bump into but Winifred, Bruce's wife, and Bruce, just two of them walking. And Bruce, at that time, it was very, very busy with the Mandy Smith things and TV and radio with me, and Bruce came over and said hi. It was very polite, and he said, why don't you join us for a meal? So Wendy and myself went up to the pasta factory, Daly's Pasta Factory, and had a lovely, as we always had when we were there, a lovely pasta with Bruce and Winnie. And that was the end of the story. And it was the next time I saw him was on the tennis court. And I was opening Oscars, my club. And the big problem was the T-shirt. If you look at the T-shirt I'm wearing, whatever you call it, I had it printed to promote Oscars called "If You Got the Balls, We've Got the Club." That's what it says on it. It's a bit of fun. And seemingly, what's his name? Ballesteros, the golfer, Seve Ballesteros, was playing, soul rest in peace, was playing the European Open or something here in Marbella. And I was trying to get a shot with him and me together. So every time he stopped, I'd sort of run up behind him and the guy would take a photograph so I could promote Oscars, my new club. And if you got the balls, we got the club. But seemingly he told someone, he didn't do well in the tournament, but he told someone, he said, some mad guy driving me mad, running up behind me with his T-shirt saying, "If you got the balls, you got the club." That was me. Always getting into trouble, aren't I? Well, have a great evening. And thanks for joining me here on my little video chat as we get ready to go and do some more. But it's going to be podcasts, I hope. Do you know, I'm that stupid. I can just use the changer on the TV. So I'm trying to get a podcast engineer. And I put an ad out. No, I want some help with this, of setting it up. I was speaking to my brilliant niece, Melissa, in Dublin, and she's, I don't know, she's a genius when it comes to business and business advisory, all that sort of stuff. And look her up, Melissa Stone. You can see her on social media. And she gave me a lot of very good advice. So I'm looking forward to it all. Anyway, have a great evening. Whatever you're doing, have a great evening. I don't know what's on telly or if you're going out for dinner or whatever you're going to do, but whatever it is, enjoy. See you later. I can never switch this off except manually. I have a little gadget here, and I thought maybe that would do the switch off. It came with my new stand.